Cool. I'm not going to talk too much about this guy, but if you don't know Mark Chambers, you should. And he is amazing. He's been doing it for 5 years now, coming up on 5 years.
It's my 7th year.
Oh, I lose track. So it's 5 years when I started 2 years ago. But he taught me how to do a CMA. We sat down together and he said, adjust this, adjust that. He has great information. I look forward to him sharing with us. So please welcome Mark.
Thank you. Well, it's great to be here. Let me start by saying there's a bazillion different ways to do a CMA. And the one that we're going to cover today is a little more in depth. So I don't always, if I'm in a hurry and I just need to do a quick run of properties, I don't go this in depth on my CMAs. But if I need to, this is one that I've learned. I learned this process that we're going to talk about today. This is what I call in-depth CMA. I learned this from a class that I took. I'm getting feedback. Is that me?
No, we're good.
Okay, we're good. I learned this from a class that I took that had an appraiser and a master realtor together. They taught the class together. And so we got to see how the two worked together. And an appraisal value is sometimes a little bit different than a broker price opinion because the realtor takes into account a few things when they're determining what price to list at, or what a property might be worth to their buyer. There's a lot of different things that they look at that sometimes an appraiser doesn't. So this is kind of a hybrid of those two systems, and I think it's a good way to really dive deep into something. So I'm going to share my screen here and just talk about a few of the key things with this kind of CMA. So obviously we're all kind of used to just pulling up prices per square foot in a neighborhood, kind of getting an average, and that's a quick way to assess some value. There's also RPR. There's other systems that you can use that run general algorithms of neighborhoods that will give you values. And this is not that. This is going through the MLS. It's the MLS system that I use to develop this particular CMA. So what I do is I log into the MLS. So let me go over there so you guys can see that. Just typical login to Sabor. If you're not familiar, I know we have somebody from Austin that's been in Austin here. This is the Sabor homepage. And if you look up here on reports, there's manage CMA reports and there's add new CMA. So you can do whatever you want. You can log into CMAs. I've got a ton of CMAs in here, 430 of them that I've done over the years. You can click new CMA and you can add in a property and start building, what you want to do. So this is the system I use most often. I also use the RPR sometimes, but this is the one I use for in-depth. So basically, I start with entering the subject property information. Okay, so I use previous MLS listing if possible. So I'll go into the MLS, I'll type in a property, and I'm going to show you, I'm going to kind of do it here in a minute. But I type in, I find the listing. Sometimes you'll find it multiple times. I usually pick the newest. And I build my CMA using that as the subject property in the system. If I can't find a previous listing, then I'll usually go to BCAD, which is Bexar County Appraisal District, type in the property address there and any information I get from the seller. If it's a listing, I can ask the seller, I can go visit the home. I also add some additional fields that aren't default on the CMA for the MLS. And I add fireplace, exterior, interior, lot size, pool spa, roof, seller concessions, and I forgot to put remarks. So just kind of show you what that looks like. If we go back to my MLS and I open, let's just say I open up, this is one I've done recently. To build the subject property, I will go to find that subject property. Hang on, do email. And I'll open up a new screen. Can you see the new screen or does it show?
No, it's coming up.
It's showing up. Okay. And I'll type in what the address of the subject property is. So I'm just going to give you an example of this one. This one is 2916 Lotus Park. So I copy paste and I'll go in and go, let me see if I can find that. And there it is. That's the history of this particular property. Okay. So I find the most recent one, which happens to be right here. I click on it and I pull up the property and I copy the MLS. I go back to my CMA, subject property, and I've already done it, but I will autofill it right here and push the word autofill to get the subject property. Okay. It will automatically give me several categories, but I usually add to those categories because I want to add some other things. And the way you do that is just to add, remove field, and all the other things that you want to include on your CMA, you put over here. And I forgot to put remarks, so I'm going to add that one. And then once you add those, push autofill, and it repopulates everything that you want. Okay. And what's important about this is whatever you build as categories on the subject property, when you go to do comps, it's going to pull up those same categories. If you don't put it in as the subject property, it's not going to show it when you pull up your comps. So that's how you add the subject property. If I didn't have a previous MLS, like I said, I would go to bcad.org or comal.org or whatever appraisal district that you're using. I would go into that appraisal district and then I would find the property and I would hand add in these things as much as I could. Okay. So that's how we start doing that. The next step for me would be then to find suitable comps. Okay. So I usually start really, really broad. I was listening to someone the other day kind of tell a newer agent how to find comps, and they immediately went into the MLS, pulled up a specific little area of a subdivision. They immediately limited it to, 2 stories, this square footage, got very specific right away. The reason I don't start specific and I start really broad is I don't want to lose any possible suitable comps. So there's a lot of agents when they're building a listing, they don't always put a lot of information in on the listing. And so if you start narrowing it down that I want a fireplace and they didn't put that there was a fireplace, but there was a fireplace, you're going to lose comps. That's a really odd example, but I just start as broad as possible. So just to not immediately eliminate any properties. Okay. I usually try to keep it at 6 months. So I'll put 6 months into the system. I try to stay within the same subdivision if possible. And I start with the legal subdivision name and I check results with the map. And I'm going to show all this to you here in just a second. Then I check the general subdivision and I compare and I check the results with the map. And the reason I check results with the map is if you put in like Cibolo, whatever, sometimes the comps, it'll say it has 11 comps. And if you pull up the map, you realize one of them is like in Cibolo, Texas, and the others are in like, Cibolo Canyons. And so sometimes the way an agent puts in information, it's actually bringing you a comp that's, 20 miles away. So I always look at the map after I do any of these, just to make sure that everything it pulled up is in the same area. And then I use the map by itself if needed. And I'll show you an example of why I do that. So if I pull up the legal subdivision and it shows me 14 comps, and I pull up the general subdivision and it shows me 18 comps, sometimes I'll do a map and sometimes the map shows me 20 comps. I'll do the same neighborhood and define it with a map. And it's just all has to do with how somebody inputted it into the MLS, whereas the map doesn't lie. If it's in the map, it's there. I eventually refine what I get, that broad range of homes, to within 10 to 15% square footage. And I decide that by where a natural cutoff is. And that's because an appraiser typically is going to look within 10 to 15% square foot either side of the home to find comps if he can. Then I look for anomalies and eliminate them if needed. So an anomaly is like, why is every house in this neighborhood $130 a square foot to $140 a square foot, but this one is $200 a square foot? And then I'll look at that house. What's different about this house? Oh, it has a pool. I haven't eliminated that yet. Or, oh, this house is completely trashed and it doesn't even have carpet and it's concrete and it's been, whatever. I usually try to eliminate those if I need to, because they skew my comps. And then I begin to refine for the most similar properties. So there's a couple of ways you can take that information. General comps based on average price per square foot. Some neighborhoods are cookie cutter. It's real crystal clear. The houses are all the same. And you can just take the average price per square foot. You don't need to do a lot of in-depth stuff. On this one, we're going to show that, but we're also going to do more in depth where we make common adjustments first for like square feet, and then we add detail if necessary. And then when all that's done, I check area market conditions. How many months of inventory? How many days on market for most of these homes? How many homes are pending and for how long? How many are for sale now? Do we have any competition when we list? Then I determine the list price using appraiser data and the market data. So the home value might be one price. The data shows the home is worth this, but market conditions might suggest a little higher price based on potential sales. So the home is worth this amount, but there's nothing on the market right now. And everything that's pending was on the market for 5 or 6 days, meaning it sold quickly. And sometimes I'll call the pending listings agents and I'll say, hey, I know you can't give me the closing price, but did you get close to what you listed for? Often they'll go, oh yeah, we got at least that, or yeah, we got a good bit higher. And so then I get all the information I can, and then I come up with an idea of what I think, okay, while the value of the home shows this to an appraiser, with the market the way it is, nothing else on the market, everything that hits the market goes within a week, we're going to list a little higher. I'm going to recommend that we possibly go a little bit higher. So that's kind of the overview of what we do on this. Okay. So let me just start a CMA so that you guys can kind of see one in action. Turn off my phone first, which is also my camera. Tell me if that messed me up, Tony. Can you still see me? Okay, good. It'll be great for the video. All right, so we're back to my CMS. Let's just take this one that I've already done. Let me cancel out of there. This is a house that I actually have that's pending right now. So I went to this. This is going to show you about finding suitable comps. I started by doing this. I went to find comparables. I put in 6 months, and the neighborhood is Greenshire number 9. Okay. So I went into the subdivision. I'm going to start not very general. I'm going to start real broad. I just put in Greenshire for the legal one. And there's a bunch of Greenshires, whole bunch of them. So I just checked them all, pulled them up, and it says I've got 20 comps. I look at the map and I decide to myself, hey, looky there. All 20 of those are in the same neighborhood. That's pretty cool. That's exciting because I didn't have one that was like, this is insurance. I didn't have one that was way over here where I live. So that's cool. All right. So then I thought, I wonder if I bring general up, because the neighborhood in general, I wonder if that'll make a difference. So let me take all those out. Let me go to the subdivision with the common name, not the legal name. And let me check that out. And there's a Greenshire, Greenshire Estates, and Greenshire Oaks. Those are 3 different neighborhoods. So I'm going to do Greenshire. I'm going to click on it. And it gave me 20. A lot of times those 2 will not match. Usually the general or the common name will come out with more, but this time they match. And if I pull them up, they're absolutely the same. Okay. Sometimes after that, let's say they were different. I'll often take a look where we are. Look, we're on Roy Richard, and we're kind of Cibolo Valley Drive, 3009, Green Valley Road. A lot of times after doing that, just to make sure, I want to do all my due diligence, I'll get rid of that. I'll add the map. Usually it's not on here. I'll type in the word map. It'll pop up here and it'll move it over. I've already got it in there. Here it is. And I will literally go find the neighborhood. So it usually pops up looking like this, the whole city of San Antonio.
For whatever reason, Mark, and I don't think we need to worry about it.
It's not showing any of that?
Yeah, we're not seeing the map.
Okay, so the pop-up doesn't show. Were you able to see when you weren't able to see all those homes were in the same neighborhood?
Yeah, we did see that though. Yeah.
Okay, so the map didn't show up. So I'll just pop in the map, and I'm glad you told me that. And I'll draw the boundaries of that neighborhood, and sometimes it will pull up other things, okay? But in this case, sorry, hold on. Pulled up the whole city. In this case, Either of these worked. Greenshire worked. They were the same. So I know I have the right place. Okay. So let me pull those up again. And now I do view results. So I'm going to view them and pull them up in a list. Here's my list. I don't know if you guys can see that.
Yeah, we're good.
And I sort by square footage. So I'll do this, boom, small to large. And I'll go ahead often, depends on how many comps I have. I got quite a few here, but I'll often just pull them all into my list. I've already done this one, so I'm going to go ahead and show you. I've pulled them all into my list and I've done it by size. So from small to large. Okay. So how big is this home? This home is 2,506 square feet. Okay. And that's what it looks like. You can see the photo there. So what I'll do is 2,506 square feet. I'll start with 15% lower than that. So I'll multiply 2,506 times 85%. I can't use my calculator because it's my phone and it's my camera, but that's going to come out to like 2,100 some odd square feet. Okay. So this top one, and look there, it's $158.73 a square foot. It's actually too low square footage wise. Let's say I only got 3 comps and one was 1,800 and one was 2,300 and one was 3,000. I might keep all 3 and try to find a range of how the prices change from small to large. But we won't go into that today, but I try to figure out, get the best sample I can. This one's got plenty that fit within the criteria. So I'm probably going to eliminate this first one as not a suitable comp. Okay. But starting with 2185, it works just fine. Okay. And then Tony, will you multiply 2,506 times 115% for me?
Yeah, 2,506 times 115.
Mm-hmm.
All right, 2,506 times
115%.
2,881.
So 2,881. So all the way up to here, we're within 15%. So from here to here are what an appraiser, if he has enough comps, would use. Right now, though, I'm looking at all of them for patterns. So look, here's price sold per square foot. So I'm looking for an anomaly, something weird, okay? The smaller the square footage, the higher the price per square foot. So it makes sense that we're in the 158s for this little one. And then when we get down to these bigger ones, look, we're $89, $88, $108 for these larger, over 3,000 square foot homes. Okay, that makes sense. But if you look right here in the middle, look at this one right here, $163 a square foot, $156.57. Why is that? I hope the picture shows when I click on it. Does the picture show? It does not. Okay, I opened it, and the first picture on the front that they opened with is a big swimming pool. Ah, that one's got a swimming pool. That's an anomaly. And I would have found that out in a minute when I started doing adjustments. Why is this one 163? I wish you could see the picture because it doesn't look anything like the other homes in that neighborhood on Valencia. Look at this one on Valencia. You can't see it. I'm not going to open it. These that are bigger. So I'm thinking, okay, there's something different about some of this, okay, that doesn't make sense. So I start to look at my comps again, and I go back to my finding comparables, and I go back to map results and check it out. Those 3 are right here. Can you see?
Yep.
14. Okay. And guess what? That little area is actually separated from the rest of the neighborhood. I wonder what's different about that area. So then I realized this is a little bit what they call, it's got a different number. It's Greenshire number, whatever. And I realized these are probably not suitable comps. If you really start to look at them, they're substantially higher than the rest of the neighborhood. So I eliminate these and I begin to search from this. Okay, does all that make sense so far? So the most important part of really doing a good CMA is really selecting the best comps and getting those before you do any adjustments. Okay, does anybody have any questions before I kind of go into the next part from that?
Really quick, you know, before you moved them into the CMA, which I know you didn't do right here, but you had sorted it by square foot. Is it however you sort it is how they'll move over into the CMA?
That's correct. Yep.
Well, that's super convenient. Okay.
Yeah, it works very nicely. And that's the only reason I do it that way. So I don't have to do it later. Okay, so actually I didn't want to go there. I'm going to go back to where we were. So that's an example. This is one that I had already done. But let me go to a different one. I'm just going to do one that I'm about to list, and we're just going to do it together very quickly. Okay. So this particular one is called 4423 James Bowie. See if I can find that. Actually, let me put it over here. What did I say? 4421? 4423 James Bowie. If I pull that up, this property's been on the MLS 4 times. Here's the most recent. This is an actual listing appointment that I just had. So here's the house. Here's the information. It's 2,272 square foot. Here's the common area is Alamo Ranch, and it specifically is in the Alamo Ranch area 4. So I'm going to do a CMA on this right now. So I'm going to take that address and I'm going to do a new CMA. And I'm going to put the address in for the description. There it is. It's a single family residential. Here's all the categories you can make one on. And I'm going to add my client who I've got in my system. But if you don't, you just add them there. You don't have to add a client. You can put yourself in. His last name is that. And this is his home. So I'm going to say continue. Okay, so I've got it titled. It's up here. Now we know we have an old MLS listing. It's this one right here. The last one that was on the market this is the MLS number. And now I'm going to put that into here and I'm going to autofill. Picture shows up and all the standard default categories are there. The bedrooms, the baths, square footage, what it sold for. But I want to add a few other things. These are things that I've learned to add over the years. So I'm going to add number of fireplaces. I'm going to add exterior features. So it tells me what the houses have. I'm going to add garage parking because a 3-car garage means more than a 2. Interior features, lot size. And all this is on a printout that I'm going to give you, so you don't need to write all this down. I'm going to add the pool spa, if there is one, the remarks, the roof, and seller concessions. I don't care about the rest of this stuff for now. I move those over, and then I push autofill, and there it is. All that information is in there for my subject property, which means when I go to pull my comps, it's going to pull in the same things. I'm going to save every periodically because sometimes my internet cuts out and I lose this. So I have my subject property. Now I want to go find comps. So I go to the comp tab and I say find comparables, and it gives me all that criteria we've already talked about. So there are a lot of ways you could do this. You could do it by area. I don't do that. It's too broad, but you could. I do put that I want a single family detached home. I don't want a garden home. I don't want a town home. And then I start with the subdivision legal. So I'm going to go in and put in the legal name for this, which was Alamo Ranch Area 4. Okay. So I'm going to go to the search function and put in Alamo, see what pops up. And of course, in San Antonio, there's lots of Alamos. So I'm looking for Alamo Ranch. Here we go. Alamo Ranch. They've got that. I could just click that. Or they've got area 1, 2, 3, 4. If I just click 4, which this house is, then it gives me 21 comps. Okay. Here's going to be a big difference. I already know Alamo Ranch. If I go to the general, then I'll go check. Oh, wait, I meant to show you that Alamo. I wanted to look at the map. So here we go, going to the map. 21, map those 21 out, and they are right here. Now, this is interesting. Notice that there's 3 down here by themselves. But this is the legal name, Alamo Ranch Area 4 is all right here, okay? So let me go refine this, or let me try a different way. I try all different ways. Alamo. And I'm looking for Alamo. I'm sorry, I should have done this. Alamo. Try this again. Narrow. Okay, there we go. There's 19. I want Alamo Ranch. So the common area name is Alamo Ranch. Now let's pull up the last 6 months. 195. So there's 195 and there was 21 in my little area, but I don't want to miss any. So if I pull up the 195, I look at the map. It's the whole big Alamo Ranch area. So I don't want that. Okay. So in this case, so far I'm going to lean with the legal name. Now, the other thing I can do is I can go take a look at where that was. Alamo Ranch Area 4, and map it. And I can draw the map and see if anything different happens. So there's Alamo Ranch Parkway, 1604 to Alamo Ranch Parkway. There's Wiseman. We're in that little corner right there. I think I'm going to try the map and just see what happens. Let me go to the map. I'm going to add the map because it's not in here and just put map search, pop it over. There it is. And you guys can't see me drawing it, can you?
No.
Okay, so I won't do it. So if I draw that out and draw that general area, it might come out with a few different comps. It might have 23. And I've done this once before, and I know it has a couple of comps that don't show up on this, okay? But right now I'm just going to go with what we have here because it's real close. I can see they're all in the same area. The only thing I wonder about are these 3 down here, but for now I'm going to select them all. So I'm going to come over here, view results, because I know we're all in the same neighborhood. I'm going to sort by square footage from 1800 to 4100. And I'm going to select them all and add them to my CMA. And there's all homes in Alamo Ranch Area 4 that have sold in the last 6 months. It's quite a few to pick from. So now I'm going to start refining. I'm going to look for some patterns and I'm going to start refining. Here's the patterns. The smaller price per square foot. The smaller the square footage, the higher price per square foot for the most part. As the homes get bigger, the price per square foot goes down for the most part. And there are some exceptions, and that's normal. Okay. Sometimes I'll start seeing a pattern that the higher prices within things that are all the same actually sold. Here's an example. Both of these homes are 2,257 square feet. This one's higher, but it just sold. That one was back in October. Well, guess what? Each month, prices have been going up. So I might, in this case, decide I have enough comps here that I'm going to do 3 months or 4 months because I feel like 6 months ago, late August, early September, here's one right here, 124.34 a square foot. Look at what's on either side of it. That's a pretty big difference. Now, maybe this house is trash. I'd have to go look at the picture. But September was a long, long ways away from 2 days ago, which is right here. So I might begin to eliminate and refine based on time frame. But right now, I'm just going to go on square footage. So this home is, get rid of my little screen here. Hold on. Oh, shoot. What did I just do? I don't think I saved it either. Let me go back real quick.
That's real life. That happens all the time.
Yes, it does. I think it's there. It's there, except I lost some things. So let me just do this and get it back really quickly. All right, add them back, select the comps. There they are, boom. So now I was trying to find my subject property, and this home's 2272. Tony, if you don't mind, times 85%, 2272.
2272 times 85%. It's 1931.
So look, the first one, just like the last example, the first one doesn't necessarily work, but everything's good. And now times 115%.
2272 times 2612.
So 2612 is really right here. And notice a difference here. Look here, 135. These are a lot lower. So I'm definitely going to get rid of this 3,684 square foot. An appraiser will never use it. It doesn't fit. I'm going to get rid of that one. And I'm going to get rid of this one. And look, they're all priced low per square foot because they're bigger homes. Here's where they all start kind of lining up. But this is still a little bit bigger than what I need. This is still a little bit bigger than I need. This 2685 was pretty close, but it's still slightly larger. I'm going to pull it out, okay? And I'm going to pull out the small one. Now, everything that's on my screen is within 15 per square foot on either side. Still have a lot of comps. I might change to 10% on either side, but not yet. Okay, so now I'm starting to look for weird things. So why is this one so low? You can't see the pictures. I can. Looks pretty normal to me. Well, it was back in September. Okay, let's see if we can find another one. The rest of these are okay for the most part. They all fit. Okay, in my mind, this is a suitable, really suitable group of comps. I don't see any super weird off the wall prices per square foot. You know, there's not $100 per square foot here. There's not a, 190 thrown in here. They're all kind of in the same range. And if you really look from the top one on, they're all between 174. Really, they're mostly in the 160s, 150s, with this one exception. And it's the oldest comp right there. Okay. So this one to me is maybe Elijah's staff is maybe a little bit of an anomaly. I might not use it, but if I do right now, because it is within 6 months, an appraiser could use it. Right now, this is a cool tool. Go up to Customize Report, click on Suggested Price and Net Proceeds, the pencil, and it will tell you right now that the average price per square foot of all those comps is 156. You don't have to figure it out. You don't have to add up all 10 or 12 of them. It'll also tell you the average price of all those comparables is $358,000 and not $358,950. If you're in a big hurry and you're wanting to get just a general idea of the neighborhood, boom, there you go, 156 bucks a square foot. You've got a good CMA to start with, okay? If I want to get a little more in depth, I go back to my comparables. I'm gonna save. And I began to eliminate even further. Okay, I'm 2272. So I'm kind of in here. If I do 10% per square foot, 10% either side, then Tony, what's times 90%?
2044.
So we're still within it. And if I do it times 110%, what is it?
2499.
So that would eliminate these two bottom ones, but they're relatively new comps. So I'm going to keep them. So I'm going to keep all of these now. And now I'm going to start making adjustments. So here's how we do adjustments. And this is going to get a little, but I'll give you this sheet. I got this from an appraiser in that class that I took. So if you can see this, I'll just talk through it real quick. All adjustments are relative in relationship to what you're listing. So for example, an extra half bath in 100,000 price range or less, you might give a different price than if you have a $500,000 home. And I'll show you some examples of that. The first adjustment we make is square foot adjustment. How do we do that? Well, an appraiser never uses the average price per square foot to make an adjustment on homes, because a home's value isn't just the square footage. There's a lot, there's improvements, there's updates in the home. There's lots that go into valuing a home value. So what they do is they take a percentage of the average price per square foot. Most appraisers use between 30 to 40% of the average price per square foot to make adjustments. Okay. So an example of that is if you find your comps and they're averaging $85 per square foot, if you take 85 and multiply it, we'll just do in between 35%, you come out to $29.75. You round to the nearest whole number, so that would be 30. So $30 per square foot is the difference between the subject house and comparables you select. That's the difference that you're going to multiply by. Okay. So let's do a couple of those to show you what I'm talking about. In the case of this house, we're $156 a square foot. Tony, if you don't mind, let's do 40%. Times 40% is what? Tony, are you there?
Yeah, sorry.
Sorry.
Tell me those numbers one more time.
If we could do $156 times 40%.
Times 40% gives us 62.
$62 is going to be our adjustment. So we're going to make adjustments. We go up here to the top and we do comp adjustments. Click on that. Here's our subject property. And here's all the other properties. And we start to make adjustments. And I really need a calculator. Let me grab my son's real quick. Hey, Josh, can I borrow your phone real quick? Just for the calculator? Just for a few seconds. Okay, thanks. So you guys can do this with me if you want. What was the number again, Tony?
62.
All right, so here's our subject house, 2272 minus 2105. The difference in square footage of the subject and the first one is 167 square feet. Multiply that down times the adjustment of 62, and we get 10,354. Now here's what's confusing to people who are new at this. We are going to adjust this property to be closer to ours. It's smaller. The adjustment price is 10,354. So we're going to bring this property up. We're going to add a positive number. 10,354 will bring it up to match our property. Okay. The next one, 2272 square feet minus 2122 square feet is 150 square feet times 62 again. Is that right, Tony? 62? And was it 62 everybody? Okay, 9,300. We're going to raise it. Looky here, the same home. We're going to do the same thing. We're going to raise it. So we're only doing square foot adjustments. Go down to the bottom and push calculate. And it will tell you what the new adjusted price is. Okay. Let's go to the next three. We're going to do the same thing. 2272 minus 2135 is 137 square feet times 62. We're bringing this up to match ours. That's 8494. 2272 minus 2257 is 15 square feet times 62. This one only comes up 930 square feet. And the same with this one because it's the same size. Go down to the bottom, calculate the total. It gives you the new value based on square footage. All right, let's go do three more. These are bigger than ours. So it's going to be 2416 minus ours. The difference is 144 square feet times 62. And we deduct, we're bringing this to match ours. We deduct minus 8928. We do the same thing with the next one, 2473 minus 2272. 201 times 62 minus 12,462. And then we do this one, 2568 minus 2272, 296 times 62 is 18,352. So minus 18,352. And we'll probably stop there and we calculate. And when we do that, we've got those new totals, okay? And we only have one more sold, so we'll do the one more. 2528 minus 2272 is 256 square feet times 62. And this one we bring down minus 15872. Okay. You could, if you wanted to save, you could stop right there. Now you've got all these comps right here. You have all these comps adjusted by square footage. If you go to the report and you look, it's changed the price not by much. The average adjusted price went down from the average sold price. So that's pretty good when they're that close. You know that you've got a lot of suitable comps. So the average adjusted price after square footage is 357,319. Okay. Before the adjustment, it's 358,950. That means that all these comps are really close to each other, which is a good thing. Let's say I wanted to get a little more specific though on my comps. I wanted to start adjusting for other things. Okay. All this is on the sheet of paper that you guys can download and get. But let me show you that. Just to go through a few of these bathroom adjustments. You're going to adjust this amount for an extra half bath and this amount for an extra bath, depending on the range of the home. So if the home is 200,000, you might adjust for 2,500. If it's 500,000, you might adjust 6,000. And I'm not going to go into depth on that yet. Carport versus garage, a 1-car garage versus a 2-car garage versus a 3. In a $400,000 or $500,000 home, you're going to add about $4,000 per garage. Typically, if it has 3-car garage, you'll add an extra $4,000. And I'll show you where you do that. Age, about $500 per year for the age. This is getting a little more detailed. These are all adjustments that an appraiser can and might make. This is not common here, central air and heat as opposed to a window unit, but it might be common, in parts of town where people are using a lot of window units. Okay. In-ground pools, 10,000 on the lower end of the price range of the home, 25 to 30 on the upper end. And it will show you how we figured that out in a minute. And upgrades, typically the market will adjust for most upgrades. Okay, so upgrades have to be over and above the comparables you're using, but you don't get as much as they cost. So a good rule of thumb is to adjust 50% of what the cost was, but you have to take into consideration the comparable. So I'm going to go over this real fast. Say you're listing a house where owners put $10,000 in hardwood flooring. Okay, the typical house in the subdivision has carpet and vinyl. It doesn't have hardwood. Although your sellers put $10,000 in for flooring, the comparables have carpet, and that's say worth $3,000. Therefore, you're not talking about giving the seller $10,000. In this case, you're talking about the improvement's worth $7,000, and now you apply 50%. You basically are going to give $3,500 for the hardwood improvement. So what they're basically saying is, if you've got granite and the others, have a vinyl countertop, you've got granite, you've got, an upgraded flooring, you're going to take the cost of those updates, the best you can figure them, and you're going to take the difference of the cost from what it was to put the regular version in. And then whatever that expense was, whatever that difference is, you just cut it in half. Okay. So if I think a house has $30,000 of improvement over and above its comps, I'll give it about $15,000. Okay. Often you don't need to do anything we're talking about, you guys. You could stop just with the square footage. Okay. Fencing, outdoor amenities, sprinkler system, covered patio. But if you're ever wondering, wow, mine's the only one with a covered patio, I wonder what that's worth, you can refer back to all this stuff. A fireplace. Okay. Lot and land. I don't usually make lot and land, lot size adjustments unless it's a unique neighborhood or it's a unique property. And I'll show that to you in a minute. So a lot of the stuff on these pages is for your reference. If you decide you've got something different than other people and you wonder how to value it, you can do this. Let me tell you where I use this mostly. I don't use this sheet so much when I'm doing comps for a listing or when I'm trying to determine value for my buyer so much as I do when a home is being appraised and I need to give data to the appraiser, because I know an appraiser is looking at all of this. Okay. So we just had one that did not appraise. It was a VA loan. This all happened yesterday. The appraiser gave us, it's called Tidewater, the opportunity for me to provide 3 comps and reasons why it should be higher. And he did not visit the property, I found out. And we, since the property had been listed, the seller put in granite countertops. So I went in and figured out what that would be, sent him a picture of it and said, this isn't in the original listing, but this is in here now. Also, we have a covered porch and your comps don't have a covered porch. And we got a little bit of extra value added to the property because I knew that these are what appraisers look at, okay? But I don't typically on every CMA go make all of these adjustments. But I want you to have this in case you ever need to refer to it, okay? So what I usually do is mostly what you've already seen. Sometimes I'll go in and make a few other adjustments. I start looking at these things. Hey, these are all 1-stories. That's great because a 1-story typically is priced a little bit higher per square foot than a 2-story. Okay, hey, these are all kind of in the same years. Mine's a little bit older, but not that big of a difference. Appraisers do not adjust for an extra bedroom because it's a part of the square footage. You don't need to add value because this one has a 4-bedroom and this one doesn't. And you don't need to give yourself more value because it's in the square footage. Bathrooms, however, are an adjustment. If you have an extra bathroom, it's an adjustment. If you have a fireplace, I usually put a little bit of an adjustment. Okay. If I really need to, covered patios make a difference when you don't have a covered patio. There's a sprinkler. That's why I put the exterior features. Hey, this has a sprinkler system. Lot size. Hey, look, they're all the same size pretty much. This one's a little bit smaller, but they're all pretty much the same size. Does anyone have a pool? Nope, not right there. Nobody has a pool. That's good. I'm going to keep these comps. These are comps I'm going to keep. Let's go to the next few. These are all 1-story. They're all within 7 years of each other. Mine's the oldest. These have fireplaces. That one doesn't. I would make a $1,500 adjustment. These are all 2-car garage, all kind of the same lot size. This one's a little bit bigger. Okay. And then I'll look at the next few. Here's some 2-stories. Which ones are 2-stories? Elijah Stapp and Thomas Rusk. Those are 2-stories. Okay, not as good a comps necessarily for me. So I'm always evaluating which comps I have and which I might eliminate. So comp number 8 and 9, possibly eliminating. And comp 10's a 2-story. So the last three biggest are 2-stories. And all other things are pretty much kind of sort of equal. I'm gonna go back and look at my comps again. Those last 3 were 2-stories, okay? But this is a relatively new comp. So, depending on all that information, I might start eliminating and making more specific comps. In this case, I'm just gonna keep them, okay? I've made all the adjustments I'm gonna make. If I had wanted to, I could have made some updates to the property. And you can do that down here by going add more adjustments. You can type in what you want, flooring, and you can give value for flooring. Then you put in a new number, calculate total, and boom, it's there, okay? So let's go to the report. Here's my report. The average adjusted price per sold comps is $357.19. I want my seller to know that. So I'm going to type in average price per sold comps, click that's what I want to show. The average price per square foot is $156. Be careful, this doesn't always match Hey, Josh, what's your passcode? Josh, what's your passcode? I need my son's calculator again. Numbers. Okay. So we were 2272 square feet. Okay, so if I did $156 per square foot, it's $354. It doesn't quite match here. So I usually just tell them, you know, what the price per square foot would be. It's around 156. So I'm going to click that. And then I'm going to go back to the customized report. And when I send them the CMA, this is what it looks like. This is what they get to see. This is for them. And I don't tell them a suggested market price. I just say, hey, here's the average price of sold comparables. And here's the price per square foot. Okay. And that information is there for them. I also show them this screen. Can you guys hear me okay, by the way?
We can hear you, but we can't see that report.
Oh, you can't. Shoot. Okay. Well, then there's no point in clicking in all of that. But I'll pull what we've already seen. They're going to get a picture of this. They're going to get the report that shows this data here. See if you can see this. Can you see that?
Yep.
Okay. It basically makes this look pretty with their name on it. And then I may include other things here that they can see, the comparisons, maybe, maybe not. Okay. So now I'm trying to determine what I would want to list this property for. Okay. Val's on the call. Me and Val are listing this together. So she's already gone through this one with me. But I will basically go back to this page and look at the pending. Hey, check this out. These are pending, not very, they're really cheap, but look, they're huge. I'm gonna get rid of those. So here's one that's pending. And it's pending for $166 a square foot, which is more than the average price per square foot. It's on the market for a while, so we don't know that they got that, okay? So I would call the agent and say, you know, were you close? Were you way under? Get an idea. This is interesting. Yesterday, this home was not here. So I was prepared to tell you guys there's nothing on the market. And so if we listed today, I'm going to go higher price per square foot. If you look at two homes that are about the same size as mine that sold recently, this one in March 4th, it's almost the same square footage. It sold for $174, way higher than the average price per square foot. I'm probably going to list this home higher than 156 a square foot. I'm probably going to list more in the 360s and not the 356 or 357 or 358 where we were. Okay. So that's kind of a general idea of how I came up with the value, but coming up with the value is different. Coming up with the value is just part of it. The other part is, what is the market doing? What are the most recent comps doing? The ones that just sold, where are they that are close to mine? The other thing you can do is you can go into area statistics. So there's a report here called Market Conditions Addendum, and you click on it. And if you type in single family, and then you put in that same area we were just in, we were area 4, and you do generate report. It's going to tell you the last year, here's the last 3 months. Here's the last 6 months. And here's the 6 months before that. So look at the pattern here. There's 1.13 months of inventory in the last year. In the last 6 months, way less, 0.33. and 0.38 right now. Okay, and this would have been even lower yesterday because there was nothing on the market yesterday. So that means that this is a major seller's market. You stick something on the market, you're going to sell it. You're going to sell it pretty fast. And that's determined by this. So I usually will print this and I'll show it to my client. But I know right now that homes aren't staying on the market very long. Okay. So there's all kinds of tools like that that I use to determine, the price on a home and do a CMA. Okay. The last thing I'm going to talk about is land. And before I do that, I just wonder, does anyone have any questions about any of this? Nope. Okay. Land is a little more confusing. I don't make lot adjustments very often, but occasionally I need to. Occasionally I'm in an area where the lot makes a big difference. So, or I'm in a neighborhood. This Alamo Ranch is very much standard homes, almost all the same builder. Probably you're not going to do a lot adjustment, but let's say I came across a really unusual lot. Well, my neighborhood, I'm on a ½ acre and most homes in my neighborhood are like 0.2. So I would make a lot adjustment for my land. And here's how you do that. And you don't need to remember any of it. You'll have to practice it a lot because it's confusing. But first of all, only do one when there's a significant difference in the comp lot size. Okay. Almost everything listed is by acre, but you have to convert to square footage. So if you remember back to your Realtor test, to convert acres to square footage, you multiply by 43,560. That's the number of square feet in an acre. Okay. Divide your sell price by the number of square feet to get the price per square foot of any given property. I'm going to give you an example here in a minute. Just like you do for square footage of a home, you do the same process for average price per square foot of the lot. Okay. Instead of multiplying by between 30 and 40%, multiply between 5 and 10% to come up with that adjustment amount. So here's an example. The average price per square foot is $15 for a particular lot. 15 times 5% is 75 cents. 75 cents is what you're going to adjust by between properties in that example. So here's another example. The subject property's 0.37 acres or 16,117 square feet. Multiply 0.37 acres times 43,560 is how I got that 16,117. Okay. The comparable properties 0.18. That's a big difference. Or 7,840 square feet, roughly. The comparable property sold for $280,000. If I take $280,000 and divide by the number of square feet, that comes out to $35.71 per square foot. I multiply that times 5%. It gives me an adjustment of $1.79 per square foot. That's what I'm going to use to make the adjustment. I take the difference in the lot sizes. In this case, the difference between a 0.37 acre lot and a 0.18 acre lot is 8,276 square feet. I got that by subtracting one from the other. I multiply that times the adjustment amount, $1.79, and the adjustment between the two lots is $14,815. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So I would make an adjustment between those two lots of roughly around that amount. Again, I only do that if I know the lot's making a difference. Okay. So that's how you do an adjustment on lot and land. Again, not used very often. Here's the most common CMA adjustments. Square footage, round to the nearest dollar, okay, times the difference in square feet. You saw me do that several times. Half bath, the range is the price range of the home. Full bath, garage, siding, pools, 50% of the original cost, sprinkler system, covered patio, and fireplaces. Those are the most common adjustments I'll make. Honestly, I rarely do a pool adjustment because I try to not have a property that has a pool compared to a property that doesn't have a pool. But sometimes, if you're selling a property with a pool and no other property has a pool, you need to figure out what yours is worth. And that's how you would do it. Okay. So that's it in a nutshell. I would say that most of the time on the neighborhood, like what we just looked at, let me share my screen. Most of the time, you're not dealing with these super high-end details. Most of the time, you're getting to this point, getting your best comps and looking at the average price per square foot. And if you're making any adjustments, you're doing it like I did here with the square footage. And you're looking and comparing these details side by side to eliminate what might not be a good comp. Most of the time, this is what we're dealing with, and it makes it a lot easier. I will tell you that this system is a lot more accurate than just running the RPR. And because they're pulling probably from other areas of Alamo Ranch than this is. And every home that we're pulling here, right here, is, you know, in the same exact few streets. And we've got plenty to pick from. So if you have that, you do that. If you don't have that, let's say you've only got 2 in this neighborhood and you need to pull from other areas, then you can do that. You can begin to use the map feature, or you can look at other areas of Alamo Ranch that have similar builders and similar price points. But luckily this one, we've got lots of good examples. So yeah, that's it.
Hey, Mark, on that, let's say we go back 6 months and we don't have a lot of comps. All right. Is it better to go outside of that subdivision and broaden your map for things that have sold in the past 6 months? Or do we try to stay in the subdivision and go a little bit further back in time?
That's a great question. If you're going to pull into other areas of the subdivision, then you need to make sure that they're similar homes. Okay. So like this Alamo Ranch area, the builder is, and since Val and I just went there, they all look very similar. The builder in this neighborhood is Pulte. So if you can find some other Pulte similar price ranges in Alamo Ranch, I would do that. You can go back to a year, but and used to be going back a year didn't make a big difference. But we all on this call know that we've gone up 17% the last 2 years. So if you go back a year, I mean, consider the percentage difference that area has gone up.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's a great question. The thing about a CMA, you guys, is it's kind of there's a little bit of an art to it. It's not an exact science. You know, if you're lucky, if you pull up comps that all have kind of the similar, you know, like this neighborhood's pretty good. It's pretty science oriented, but often you just have to kind of keep sifting and going, you know, one thing I didn't show you, but I should, is an appraiser at this point would find the one with the least amount of adjustments. That's got 10,000. That's got 9,300. That's got 9,300. Boom. We come over here. Getting smaller. These two have a $930 adjustment. That's how close they are to our house. So an appraiser might then go back. This is comp number 5 and 6. And he might push comp number 5 and 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. These two, he might push them up to the top of the list. And they sold for $370 and $394. And our average price was $358. So yeah, my gut of we should list in the 360s is more accurate. You know what I mean? So there's all kinds of things that as you get into it, you just start finding what is my best comp. Usually it's the closest in square footage with similar features. You know, you can dive into these a little deeper. You can look at the picture for number 5 and 6. They're the same square footage, but they sold for $24,000 apart. Why is that? Well, I bet if I click on these photos, I could tell you why. Okay. Then I compare it to my property and then I'm like, oh, we don't have that. So, but yeah, to answer your question, you try to find what works best. Anybody else have a question? Is anybody still on the call? I can't tell.
Is there a price difference between 1 and 2 stories?
1 stories have a bigger footprint typically in their slab. And so 1 stories typically are priced a little bit higher per square foot than a 2-story in general, which is why it's good to compare 1 stories if you can. That makes sense?
Yep.
I have one question.
Yep.
How do you, where do you see that seller CMA and buyer CMA?
Oh, okay. That's a great question. Up here, you can click seller CMA.
I don't see that on mine. Which
It's at the very, very, very top of when you go into create, you add a new CMA or you go into the reports, it's at the very top next to the name. So if you can see my screen, I'm pointing to it right now.
Yes, I'm looking at it. Yes. So how I mean, what's the difference between the two?
Yeah, that's a great question. I always do a seller CMA. The difference is in the template that you show to the client. So when you click it to a buyer CMA, you can't see the screen that I'm opening. This template shows up different. But it's easier for me to determine value on a seller CMA as if I'm going to list the home, and then I convert it for my buyer to what I want my buyer to see about it.
Okay. So you go to the reports first, start CMA, add to CMA.
Yep.
Okay. So if I start new CMA 228, and then I go continue. Oh.
And yeah, you put that in there. And when you say to continue, it's going to take you. Yeah, it's going to take you to that screen.
Yes. I see it.
Did you get you? So you see it? Okay, great.
Yeah.
And I see Collins on the call. The Dallas system is totally different than this. And like the HAR system in Houston. And actually, to be honest with you guys, those systems, I don't know about Dallas, but the Houston system and ABOR Austin system, I think are way more advanced. They will do a lot of this for you really accurately. They'll kind of do what the RPR does, but way better.
We have an online system, a third-party company.
Yeah, it's when I listed a home in Houston and did the Houston system, once I learned this system, it cuts a lot out of this to get to this point, I should say, right here. So
yeah, so yeah, CMAs are different, but my property is in San Antonio, so we completely renovated it. So how do I add back the price for the renovation?
So you take what the cost of those renovations were. Well, first of all, you make sure that those renovations are not common in the neighborhood. So whatever neighborhood your particular home is, if everyone else has those renovations, then there's no point in adding them as updates because everyone has them. But if they don't, let's say you've added granite countertops and nobody else has, then you take the cost of what you spend on those granite countertops and how much more of an improvement is it price wise from everyone else? And then an appraiser will give you 50% of that. So let's say you spent $8,000, you're going to give yourself $4,000.
Okay. So average. You can just do the ballpark figures. Yeah. If you spend 200,000, you just add 100,000 to the total price of the property.
Well, if you
versus
yeah, go ahead.
This is based on the comps that you're doing, the comparable property, right?
Yeah, correct. Okay. But most of the time, you're not going to find properties that updated over the comps. You might find a few. Where you find that a lot is in neighborhoods that are gentrifying, that are changing over, like Beacon Hill, closer to town, neighborhood where I just did a Beacon Hill listing, and some of them are $260 a square foot, and some of them are $80 a square foot. And when you look at them, some have been completely renovated, hundreds of thousands of dollars, and some are in really old shape. Those homes are in the 1920s. So that's where you find really, then you're going to have to do adjustments for improvements. But in a newer neighborhood like Alamo Ranch or anything north of 1604, you're going to find everything's pretty similar. So
yes, we are the one that is being regentrified. So there's new building. People are completely taking them down and rebuilding, and there's still older ones.
Yeah.
We did knock it down, but we basically gutted it out and rebuilt. The floors, the walls, the kitchens, the bathrooms, the roof, windows,
Gotcha.
everything. So then it just makes sense to take the price that you paid to do the renovation and take and divide it in half and add that back.
In general, yeah.
To relative to what you're comparing with.
Correct. You got it.
If you're comparing with the new ones, then renovated and new one would be similar price, or would there be variance?
It would be, you'd be more in line with a new one because you're kind of creating a new house than you would be with the old one. Is this your own home that you're talking about?
This is my investment. This is my investment.
Okay, your investment home. Okay. Yeah. What I would suggest you do if you want is even get an appraisal of the new value. It'll cost you some money.
We did a while back. We did more than a year ago. So we did even more work since then. Okay. So we would need a new appraisal.
Yeah, or you could take the old appraisal and just use the method we just talked about to get your value. Value would go up a little bit from the appraisal a year ago.
Okay, makes sense. Thank you.
You bet.